All right, I'm here with Katya Karankevich. How'd I do?
That's, I mean...
Good enough. Is it 7 out of 10?
C plus, B minus.
All right. Hi there, I'm here with Katya Karankevich, and she's running the Nasty Women's exhibit, which is going on throughout the month of October at Bentley's Coffee Shop on East Speedway. Thanks for being here with us, Katya. All right, so if we could start, if you mind giving us a little background of who you are, where you're from. Are you from Tucson?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I wish I was from Tucson. It's been a pretty fun town.
Yeah.
I'm from Russia originally, immigrated with my family in the 90s, lived in Alaska for a long time, other states, moved to Tucson 3 years ago. It's been a great time.
Cool. Moved here for work, for business?
More or less. I came here for grad school, quit that, started working for a biotech company that I work for now here.
Cool. All right. So what led you to start the Nasty Women's exhibit? Did you start it by yourself?
Yes. Here
Okay.
in Tucson, yes. So the original Nasty Women exhibit, if we give you some background, was started by a group of women out of New York City. They got together right after the election, and right before the inauguration, they rented a gallery in Manhattan and hosted an art show similar to this. They raised $42,000 in a couple of weeks for Planned Parenthood. And so I called them up and I said, hey, can I also do a satellite exhibit here in Tucson? And they said, yeah, sure, go ahead. And after they said yes and sent me the graphics folder, I realized I'm not a curator, I'm not a director, I don't know anything about art. But I said, well, we'll just wing it, we'll just do it. So we had one in April at Borderlands Brewery in town, downtown. And we, in a weekend, in 48 hours, raised $15,000 for Planned Parenthood by selling small pieces of art for, non-gallery prices.
Right.
There were local artists, there were international artists that donated, national artists all over, men and women, people of all genders, to the show. It was excellent.
Yeah, being somebody who's not from that background, like a curator or anything, like were you like overwhelmed with the response to it?
I was overwhelmed with the response. There were a lot of people who said, yeah, this is what Tucson needs. And I said, cool, because this is what I need. Personally, I need this. Because after the election, I think, a lot of us of average intelligence, white people kind of woke up and said, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
And, being a person of limited skills and abilities, I thought, what can I do as an individual that will impact the community positively?
Right, rather than just feel depressed and
just wallow in my own misery,
Sure.
which I did that too.
Yeah, I did.
I think we all did that for a bit.
It helps for a day or two.
I think it's good. That's good too.
Yeah.
That's good too. But then once you snap out of it, you realize I can either ignore this problem or I can do something about it, and creating a space for people to come together and support Planned Parenthood or any other, family planning nonprofit, I think was kind of the way I wanted to go.
Did you get any backlash or anything from doing it? Did you?
Oh,
you got
yes.
some hate email?
I got some hate mail.
Yeah, right.
I kind of set up a website for submissions and for people to kind of see the work, dumpsalad.com.
Okay.
Like I'm taking out the trash to the dump and I took a salad, and ate that.
Sure.
Dumpsalad.com.
Visual.
I got some hate mail. Someone sent me porn.
As a submission?
Well, no. I think it was just like, here, look at this.
Okay.
It
you'd
was.
be like, oh.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I wasn't offended. It wasn't very good porn.
Okay.
But
mid-grade.
It wasn't the best.
Yeah.
I got people sending me really vulgar emails about what I, as a woman, should be doing on my knees and so forth.
Suggestions.
Suggestions for how to spend my free time. I got some folks who said they were going to come protest, who said they were never going to go to Borderlands Brewery again because they supported a Planned Parenthood fundraiser, and Planned Parenthood supports killing babies, and all these other misinformed kind of psychotic things that I kind of, you know, didn't really take to heart.
Okay, no death threats or anything like that?
Not yet, no.
Okay, all right.
But you know, maybe after this, yeah, I know, you're really popular when someone takes time out of their day to send you something cruel.
Yeah, that's, you're hitting the right notes.
You're hitting it.
Yeah.
So I haven't made it there. Maybe after the show, someone will be kind enough to make me feel important and send me a death threat.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Hope we can get that. So, so this year's a little bit different, right? You got it structured a little bit different. So you want to talk about that a little bit? So you have it.
Sure.
Yep.
The last show in April at Borderlands was just a 48-hour weekend thing. We sold out of the art, and it was very short. People like beer, so they also showed up for that. There is no beer at Bentley's, but there's great coffee and food. And I wanted this event at Bentley's, being that Bentley's is, you know, a 33-year-old staple of Tucson, to be a meeting place for people to come and look at the art, maybe buy any of it if they want to support Planned Parenthood, and to really just have a coffee and a conversation about it.
Right, okay. And this goes all month?
Yes.
All through October?
All through October.
That's cool.
And we'll have to take down on the 31st, probably. Or hopefully we'll have to take nothing down because it all sells.
That's true, yeah. Maybe you won't have to. That's it. So how's it done so far? Since you opened up on Saturday, right?
Yep.
Was the opening day?
I think it's a week. It's been a week, almost.
Almost a week, yeah.
Yeah, it's done very well. I've had a lot of folks show up and say they're, you know, intrigued and want to know what's going on. People who randomly show up to Bentley's and wonder why there are just dicks and paintings of Trump surrounded by dicks everywhere. They quickly figure it out, I think.
Sure, that it's a themed kind
that
of
it's a
thing.
theme,
It's
yeah.
just
This is, it's not an accident. These were put together, you know, curatorially that way.
Sure. Do you, what goes into the decision making? You're like, oh, there's a dick here, I need to move. Like, do you group them according to organs, or is it more color, thematic thing?
That's a very good question, and I think art curators ask themselves that all of the time. How do I thematically put these pieces together where the sum of the parts mean more than the individual component?
Right.
And yeah, it was kind of like, you know, here's a painting of Trump, and then here are some charcoal dicks and, you know, watercolor dicks.
Okay.
A good friend of mine, Farah Bougio, who is a graduate student at the U of A in genetics, she did a project called Dicks of Tinder. And that's where all the dicks come from. Her dicks of
they're actual...
They're actually originally from humans who sent this wonderful girl, Farah, the pictures of their penises.
Yeah.
And she painted them. Okay. So that series, I feel like, kind of meshed well with all of the submissions that I got that were about Trump. But the majority of the art that's there are not dicks, and they're not Trump.
I don't mean to say. Make it sound
this
like
isn't,
it's
you
all.
know, this isn't like all of what.
It was really just that
there.
one wall, I guess. They were all kind of, you know, and it did form a kind of theme to it, you know. That's
yes, and the purpose was, you know, there. You definitely got it. The rest of the art, there's a lot of feminist art. There's a lot of, you know, women's bodies. There's a lot of women's expressions in abstract or non-abstract form of how they feel. A lot of photos, a lot of drawings, a lot of acrylic, oil, nudes, a lot of things.
The one, it looks almost like a sheet. It's kind of like a ghost.
Yes.
What was that? What is that made of?
There's one that's kind of black and white, like our background here. It's a big, you'll have to go, it's really hard to explain
Yeah,
art.
the one I'm thinking of is like in the corner.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like a sheet, and it's scrunched up in a certain way. It's a very large piece, and it has a woman's face on it, and it's the artist's self-portrait.
Oh, okay.
And she's like screaming, and it was with spray paint and stencils, which is very difficult on a non-flat surface. She did a great job of it. It looks excellent.
Yeah, that one was great. That really.
Yeah, it
so
really stands out.
Yeah, very cool. There was another kind of 3D one, almost looked like a kind of diorama one that there's like a heart inside.
Yep.
That one was pretty cool
Yep.
too. That was like towards the front. You know which one I'm talking about. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, so there's all different types of stuff. In the bathroom, you had your own.
Yep, I had a bunch of art. We still have a bunch of art in the bathroom. I'm
there
setting everywhere because
Yeah.
Bentley's is a great place for your coffee and your sandwiches and your lunch dates. But as far as wall space goes, there's not a lot of it. And because we've got so many submissions, and I want to show all of the pieces, and I think a lot of them have a ton of value, you know, to the conversation, I want them to put up literally everywhere I could possibly find space. And so in both the bathrms, there is art in there.
I like that because it's like a conversation piece too. Like say you go to the bathroom, you come out, hey,
Yeah, you're like, hey, did you see that Trump dick? Did you see that clown penis in there? Yeah, that's exactly the conversation I want to start.
I like that. It's a good conversation to start. How many submissions did you get in all?
Over 100.
Okay.
It's hard to count because some artists submitted several pieces
Yeah.
and some artists just want one in there.
Sure.
So we have several hundred submissions from maybe about 100 artists this time.
Oh, very cool.
Last time we had about 300 submissions from, I think, over 150 artists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. I had women's groups from Boston send me art and just boxes of stuff.
Oh, amazing. So how do you spread the word about this where somebody like a group in Boston would hear about that?
I don't know.
Do you hire somebody to?
No, I don't. This is
It's
just my own personal project.
Yeah.
You know, for my own therapy about the political situation. I think I know maybe 5-10 people in this town.
Yeah.
And for the last exhibit, for 2,000 people to show up to Borderlands, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. When only a handful of them are people you know.
Yeah, and they probably half of those people didn't even show up. So you know, so who knows where all those other people were. I put the info on dumpsalad.com. And directed my friends on social media to go share that with other people, to share the event, and to just spread it around any groups that they knew that would be interested in it.
So you just hit the right moment of what people were feeling was, Planned Parenthood was under attack or still under attack, and
yes.
I guess you just. I don't know, that's amazing that many people heard about it. It's really hard to spread the word about an event like that, that's what I'm impressed with.
I think social media has given rise to a lot of activism, mostly armchair activism, because I think it's easy for us to go and send prayers instead of actually, doing something and showing up for an event. But I think Tucson has been very engaged, and I'm starting to see, why we're engaged. We're engaged in Tucson because a lot of us are minorities. A lot of us are immigrants. A lot of us came from or are in, low-income families that rely on Planned Parenthood and Planned Parenthood services such as cancer screenings and, mammograms and family planning services that are not just abortion. Right? We know that only 3% of Planned Parenthood's services go to abortions, and the rest go to other things like dick cancer screenings. Planned Parenthood isn't just about men.
It's a health organization.
It benefits a lot of populations that are not just women. And we know, not just Tucson, but nationwide, that 60% of the women seeking abortions already have one or more children, which would fall in the face of the stereotype that only irresponsible young single women are having abortions. No, most of these are married women with children.
Sure. And
they're done. They have their thing, and they are not ready for more yet.
Right. Yeah, it battles that we have that sense in our head of this young girl as being irresponsible, she gets pregnant, and that's the archetype.
Sure.
And it's not representative of what's really happening according to these statistics. So.
It's not, and I think a lot of us like to blame one stereotype because we think it's easy. And the easy answer seems like the right answer.
Yep.
When really the right answer about family planning choices is complex and multifaceted.
Yep.
And should be left to the individual rather than a religious organization or the government.
Yeah. It's it kind of reminds me of like the stereotype of like the welfare queen that came around like the Reagan era, you know, and it really stuck with people. I mean, it still exists today.
I think it still exists.
Sure it does, yeah. But it's interesting to see how much these stereotypes can stick with people and just remain the thing that they think about. And I think the sooner we can kind of get rid of that stereotype, the better, the more the people will see the gray of the area, you know. Another thing, what you're saying about being multifaceted, I often hear like, are you pro-abortion or anti-abortion? You know, and that phrase pro-abortion, is anyone pro? I mean, it's like a weird phrase to say. Like you're not. It's like no one's happy about the decision. It's a wrenching decision to have to go through, and it seems very like irresponsible and insulting to say to somebody that they're as if they're just doing it willy-nilly. Oh, yeah, it's something I did in the afternoon and that's it. And that's not what people go through. You know, you're not giving respect to the person and their emotions that they're going through making this decision, you know? So
I think family planning decisions, positive or negative, are difficult decisions and emotional decisions to make. And I don't think it's anybody's place, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, to put your own opinions on other people.
Yeah.
I have pro-life friends who I love to death, and I'm, pro-choice, I think, but I wouldn't want to put my opinions on them. That's their decision. If you don't want to get an abortion, don't get one. Don't, I wouldn't hinder other people from expressing their views and their opinions because that's what they feel. When a powerful lobby group wants to put in a bunch of money to put in legislation that says abortion ban at 20 weeks or any other, random unscientific number of weeks, I say that is infringing upon our constitutional right as an individual for bodily autonomy. In the last decade or so, there have been over 1,000 GOP initiatives to limit women's autonomy in terms of reproductive choices. Let's ask the same GOP, how many initiatives have they instituted against, for gun control?
Yeah, so that brings up, I guess another just interesting week to be talking about that in terms of gun control. So we were talking about this earlier about, our state in particular, how it's easier to get a gun than it is to get an abortion. So there's a wait time that you said for an abortion?
In a lot of states, there's a 72-hour mandatory waiting period.
And is that what's that the intention of that? So
the
you can think about it?
Yeah.
Like as if you hadn't thought about it before.
If the intention is, I think, very patriarchal. The law of a 72-hour waiting period in many states basically flies in the face of our own decision-making ability as women. It says, I'm not informed enough to make a decision about what I want in my life, or I'm not ready, or I'm so emotional that I can't possibly know what's good for me. And I think that is a law that doesn't help anyone make the decision they've already made. It only serves for them to, for another 3 days, be away from work or their families in the cases they have to travel to a clinic, and that is an undue burden on women. A lot of states, personal states, have ruled this is unconstitutional, that a 72-hour waiting period or a 48 or 24-hour waiting period is unconstitutional. I would happen to agree with them. I don't think it helps save any more unborn lives.
Yeah, I would be interested to know who changes their mind in that 72-hour period. Those 3 days, that's all it's going to take for you to reverse this huge decision that you've already thought about plenty of time, for plenty of time before you've done it, I assume. So
yeah, I can agree with you. It's a good question, but it's not. This 72-hour waiting period is not the only thing. Since Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court case that legalized abortion access for women in 1973, we have had thousands of tiny, tiny laws that have gone into effect that do not impede on women having an abortion per se, but they impede on everything around them having an abortion. For example, having to be read an unscientific, mandatory thing
That's Texas, right?
That the physician has to read to you about how you have an option of a choice to not have this abortion.
Sure.
Why would you have a physician read that to you? This is a patient, provider issue. Right. So that's one law, and then you have your mandatory waiting period. You have an ultrasound in a lot of states. You have to be shown an ultrasound of the fetus. In a lot of cases, this is an undue burden for women, especially women that work and have a family, which we know statistically most women who are seeking an abortion already have children. They have stuff to do. And they've already made a decision. But these laws slowly work to limit the access to abortion, and they work. We know Mississippi has one clinic. Was it North Dakota has one clinic that provides an abortion in the entire state? Women in Texas have to travel over 300 miles, stay the night somewhere, and then have a mandatory waiting period as if they don't already know what they're going in to do.
Sure.
I think we've politicized this issue enough. If a man could get pregnant, we would have an abortion available at an ATM.
Yeah, they'd be happening. It would be no question. Like if for some reason next week, anatomy changed and everything, yeah, that would be done immediately.
It would be available. Yeah.
So do you think is it, because what I'm hearing from the having to travel, it's affecting low-income women, I'm sure, more than anyone, because they have to figure out a way to get there and take off work, as you said, and all these kinds of things. I mean, do you think why do you think that what is really behind this? Do you think it's genuinely an issue of religion, or do you think it's more of a kind of a patriarchy to keep that going, or is it a social class thing? And what do you think is really driving these kinds of laws, in your opinion?
I mean, in my opinion, I think it's all three. I think we have a component of fundamental people who believe that life, whatever that means, starts at conception. I'm under the same opinion as Bill Nye, the science guy, who would say that a ball of cells is a ball of cells that has no articulated organs or ability to function outside of a womb, that is not yet something we can give inalienable rights to. On the other hand, the mother is a full-grown person that should have some inalienable rights over her own body. There are 17 states in the United States where a woman who was raped and becomes pregnant has to notify her rapist to get consent from the rapist to get an abortion. If that's not patriarchy, I don't know what is. I mean, the patriarchy is the other component of that. We have all of these laws that kind of subjugate women and put them in a lower status of rights than anyone else. And the third component is that these laws definitely affect women of color and low-income women way more than affluent white women.
Yeah, absolutely. I would think with all those roadblocks, I mean, if you have money, you can get around that, but that's really where it hits hardest. Now, what I never understood, like, 'cause that sounds like a libertarian argument, and even a conservative argument in some ways, you know, where it's limited government, where you could definitely make the case, where it's interesting that the same anti-government forces, they reverse it when it comes to this issue. And it's like the only issue that where it's okay for government, maybe drugs would be the other one, that where it's okay for the government to come into your life, maybe be intrusive on your life, more so than, you know, taxation and things like that. It's always interesting. Have you ever had this discussion with somebody who's you have? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, how'd that go?
I think it's something that we have to separate in our minds. And I mean, we all know that humans in political parties are not logical beasts.
Sure.
Yep. The fact that the Republican Party or the Libertarian Party wants small government. They don't want the government to come take their guns. They don't want the government to tell them what to do. They want to pay low taxes. They want privatized schools in some cases. And yet, we've been telling women what to do with their bodies for forever. Why is that? Is it because most of the people in the White House are older white men? I don't know. Why?
They are.
Right? Well, they are also, right?
We can definitively state that.
We can state that maybe that has something to do with it. You know, I don't think that this is a conservative or a liberal issue. I think this is an issue of bodily autonomy, that if I have a body, I should be able to decide what to do with that body. If you have a body, you should be able to not have the government tell you what you're going to or not going to do with that body. It branches across all social strata and all types of political views. To know that I'm an independent person, capable of making my own independent decisions. And I should be given the opportunity to do that without government, secular, religious intrusion, law enforcement intrusion, right?
Yeah, so go ahead.
Otherwise, if we don't have that bodily autonomy, the only women that will be allowed to have freedom to decide when to have families are wealthy women, because they'll be the only ones that have access to birth control or abortion services, because they'll be able to fly to Mexico or another country to get get the services they need.
Right, because there's always a way to have it done, right? I mean, people have been having abortions, or women have been having abortions for probably ever, right? I mean,
whether it's illegal or not,
right?
It's still going to happen.
Sure, it happens.
The question is whether it's going to be safe or not. And if it's illegal,
health issue as well.
It's always been a public health issue. When we say things like back alley abortions, we really mean back alley abortions behind the health clinic, when physicians, knowing it was illegal, would still do it for the sake of the mother. There are books written about that.
Yeah.
If we go back to pre-1973, abortions will not stop happening. They will still happen. More women will die because of that.
How do you think we change this whole kind of structure you're talking about? I know it's like a huge issue. Is it a matter of, voting in more female candidates, or supporting more females to run for office? Do you think that's where it starts?
I don't think you have to have women in office to have men who are empathetic to bodily autonomy and to reproductive choices. Does it help to have women in office? Yeah, probably. Yeah, from a firsthand experience, I think women know what women's issues are like and what to do about them. I think the first step is just voting.
Yeah, okay.
Voting in general. I think the second step is probably voting for candidates who have a pro-choice background, pro-choice views. if we want to stop the legislation against women and against women's autonomy, we have to vote for candidates that will represent us and that will represent families.
Simple in that way, right?
I think it's voting. I think maybe it's donating to family planning clinics that are pro-choice. We have a lot of family planning clinics in Arizona that are pro-life, secretly masquerading as a clinic. They have no physicians on staff. They have no nurses on staff. They're federally funded by Medicaid to provide ultrasounds and pregnancy tests. But they call themselves Women's Resource Center, Teen Pregnancy Planning Centers, wholesome sounding, all choice encompassing names, but when you get inside and you say, hey, I think I might be pregnant, I hear I can get an ultrasound and a urine test here for pregnancy, and they go, yeah, sure. They give that to you, and then if you say, oh shoot, I'm pregnant, well, can I schedule an abortion here? Or something like that. They go, oh no, you have two choices here, parenting or adoption. We don't do that. And they will give you a lot of non-scientific, non-medical advice, which sounds like medical advice.
And when you're feeling stress and things like that, I mean, you tend to trust doctors.
Sure, well, there are no doctors.
Oh, there aren't even doctors.
There are
or
no
somebody
doctors
who's
there.
at least in a somewhat official capacity. I don't know. You're at least seeing them as an authority, to some degree.
There are some counselors there in whatever way.
Right.
There's some administrators there. They don't have any nurses. They don't have any doctors. But our taxpayer money is going to them in Arizona so that they can convince women to not get abortions. It's something in the courts right now. I know Texas just made it illegal for these services to receive federal money.
The ones you were talking about?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But in all other states, I think it's still a go.
Yeah, Texas is trying.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Whoa.
I got to double check, but I
threw me for a loop there.
I believe it's
maybe they don't understand.
Yeah, maybe they didn't understand it. Yeah, or maybe maybe enough people were voting there to start changing the tide towards women's rights.
Yeah.
That was something I was surprised to learn when I moved to Arizona 3 years ago. I walked into the Women's Crisis Center.
Okay.
On their website, it says, are you pregnant? We're going to help you. We're going to give you all the choices. We're going to tell you about everything. We're going to inform you, make sure you've got all the education that you need. And I thought, oh, I want to volunteer there. I figured it was kind of a Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood was full of volunteers. They didn't need any more at the time. So I said, I'll walk into this place. I walked into this place, and they sat me down, and it looked very official. It looked like a medical center. And I said, what kind of a clinic are you? Oh, I said, do you have any doctors? No. Do you have any nurses? No. I said, well, what do you do here? They go, well, we provide ultrasounds. We have an ultrasound machine. Okay. So they have an ultrasound tech. You don't need to have anything more to perform that. And we give pregnancy tests. And I go, cool. So then what do women do with that? They go, well, we're strictly a pro-life center. So they can either parent or adopt. Those are the choices that they have. And I go, well, your website didn't say anything about being a pro-life center. And the title of this place is a crisis center.
That's where I would,
for women to come to get information. And then she started telling me about how life begins at conception, and the fetus has feelings, and
opinions.
And opinions, and the baby probably likes macaroni or whatever at that gestational phase that it's in, and I thought, this is insane. And our federal tax dollars through Medicaid are funding these clinics.
Why wouldn't they say that? If they're, that's
because
weird
no one would come in.
I know, but isn't that kind of say it right there? They're sort of
if they said we're a
concealing
Jesus
something.
house, that will let you pee on a stick, no one would come in. I think they know that. I think they know that if they find someone in a moment of crisis, they can convince them that abortion is dangerous, that you're never going to be able to have kids after you have an abortion, which is, those things are totally untrue.
Yeah, right. But it is.
But it is something that has been told to us for a long time on reasons to not get abortions. Something they told me in there when I interviewed to volunteer there, they said, most abortions result in miscarriages. So if you want to get an abortion, just wait a while.
Just wait it out. You got an 80% chance. It's like Russian roulette.
Yeah. Fetus roulette.
Yeah. That's insane.
Which I thought was insane.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you think it's insane too, because I sometimes feel like a crazy person.
Right.
When I think that these things are going on.
Play the odds.
Play the odds. I'm not trying to play the odds. I'm trying to plan my parenthood. Which is probably why I support Planned Parenthood so much. Is because they give you all the options. You want to adopt? That's fine. You want a parent? That's fine. You want an abortion? That's fine. Do you want birth control? That's good. Are you gay and you want to have your tubes tied? Do you have 6 kids and you want to have your tubes tied? We don't care who you are. I think Planned Parenthood is probably, and abortion and birth control, all of those things in the 21st century are better than sliced bread. I mean, it's, what's been the best movement forward to equalize women to men and the status that men have had to go out and be breadwinners, to have a career, to educate themselves. And that has been birth control in all of its forms. That's been the great equalizer, birth control. If I can wait until I'm in my however age so that I can go have a career and I can get an education and I can do the things that I want to do with my life before I'm ready to have kids, if I can have that by using birth control, 100 years ago, I mean, that wouldn't have been possible, thanks to Planned Parenthood.
Right. And that's maybe what creates a threat for some people, that you're
absolutely
be a person.
Yeah. If you think that women are people, you should support Planned Parenthood.
That's a good slogan.
Should I go work for them?
I think you should. That's good.
I maybe they'll let me someday. I think if we believe women should have the same rights as men do over their bodies, we should support, the pro-choice initiative or Planned Parenthood or family planning clinics.
Yeah. And luckily we can do that this month.
We can do that this month.
By going to Bentley's Coffee and Tea.
Everyone has the Google now.
Yeah, 1730 East Speedway. You know where it is. It's across from the McDonald's. You've passed by it so many times. Next to a tattoo shop.
Yep, it's next to some great tattoo shops.
Taco Bell's near there.
Great
Dirtbags
place.
is there.
Yeah, it's right next to Dirtbags.
Right.
Bentley's has been around for a long time, and I think they're staunch supporters of choice. And they've been very gracious in letting me put up weird stuff there for the month.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, they're allowing that. That's really cool. It says a lot about their character, and that they're open-minded enough to host something like this. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think if anyone is going to have a coffee date this month, they should go to Bentley's.
There you go. Yeah.
They should see the work of local Tucson and Arizona artists, national artists, international artists, and 100% of any art purchase they make goes directly to Planned Parenthood, which for all month long, which is excellent.
There you go. So you get a piece of art, you get to support women's rights.
Get a coffee.
Get a coffee.
Get a Danish
scone, whatever. Oh, I actually just want to ask you one question. Do you have a favorite piece that you've seen so far in the exhibit?
Yes. There is a piece from a local artist. Everyone should go see it. It's very fun. It's a caricature of Trump made out of vintage Nazi stamps.
Oh, I don't think I saw that one.
Now you have to go back.
I have to.
Now you have to go back and
I actually
look.
want to get an update of the new pieces since I've been there. So there's probably new stuff since Saturday.
I think her name is Barbara. I'm really terrible with names, and I should have thought about this ahead of time. But go see the work.
I'll go back
it's
and
in the
get a
middle
shot
of
of it so we can
of the
show it.
Trump Dick wall. There's
Okay,
a
it's in
big
there.
Trump made out of Nazi vintage stamps that she had collected over the years.
Crazy. Okay. Very cool. That's the one. All right. That isn't sold yet. Still available?
Not yet.
Still available.
Yes,
Okay.
as of this moment. I keep on going back to Bentleys, and there are more holes in the walls that I have to replace with more art, which is good.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So keep that in mind too at home. The updates, every few days when things get sold, new work goes up. So if you didn't see anything you wanted, go back a few days later and you'll get in a whole new batch. So, all right. Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming by, and we'll come by and check it out for sure. And good luck with the rest of the month. I hope it's a big success.
If Tucson shows up, it'll be definitely successful.
There you go. It's up to you. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.